Hi everyone, hope you're doing well today. Today I went to Lowe's Garden Center. I had to pick up a few things to plant. I use the almanac online to determine when I need to plant seeds outdoors, indoors, what I need to plant, and what time of season. It gives you the spring and the fall planting schedule for your zone. I highly recommend it. It's free, it's online, and it does update as needed based on your freeze dates and best times to plant. So I did look at the roses. I didn't purchase any roses today. I already have a large amount of roses in my yard. But I will tell you, the hybrid teas were beautiful. The grandifloras were beautiful. The hybrid teas are the most popular. They're great for bouquets. They have the long stems. The grandifloras are a subgroup of the hybrid teas, but they have the benefits of the floribunda and the benefits of the hybrid. They have the beautiful blooms. They have clusters like the hybrid teas, but they're a little bit different, and they have more of the more blooms from what I found in my yard. Again, I'm in zone 7. They had really beautiful blackberries and blueberry plants. The thing I found with blueberries, there's two different types. You have the smaller ones that are smaller in stature. They don't grow as tall, but they also have the smaller blueberries on them. I have some of those in my yard, and I have the larger, more traditional blueberries. I prefer the larger ones. However, those bushes get about 6 feet tall and 6 feet wide in my area. So I do have some smaller ones in my garden stock tanks. But I will tell you, the blueberries are much smaller. They're a lot smaller, and it takes a lot more to fill up a little bowl versus the more traditional, larger, plumper blueberries. So if you have a smaller space or you want to have a container garden, the smaller blueberries are definitely okay. If you want something that comes back every year that you don't have to buy again every year, blueberries are great. I have blackberry vines in my yard. These are the calabricoas. These are basically like tiny or smaller petunias. They grow about 4 inches tall. They had traditional petunias today. I like petunias. The only thing is in my area, it gets really hot, and petunias will start looking very tired. So you do have to cut them back. So if they start looking leggy and stringy, just cut them back to the base, but make sure you leave a crown of growth at the top, of green growth like leaves, and they will regrow in my area and be really pretty again. You do have to keep them, in my area, you have to keep them fertilized pretty much all season long. These were really pretty African daisies. They had the traditional pansies. I plant anything that's an annual that I plant in my yard. I plant mostly perennials because I like things to come back every year, but there are some really pretty annuals, but I use seeds for mine most of the time. The reason I do that is it's just much cheaper, and you can kind of control how many you get. So you can get a packet of 200 seeds, pansy seeds, and I can sprinkle them in an area around some of my perennials that have not come back yet, and they'll come up in the fall, and I'll have beautiful pansies in my yard all the way through the time when it gets hot. And when it gets hot, I just cut them back to the ground. I leave a tiny bit of green, and sometimes they make it through the summer and come back. Very rarely, but I do have some do that. Usually violas will do that for me. Pansies a little bit harder to do that. They had some really nice strawberries. I already have strawberries in one of those tall planters, the ones with the different tiers. They're doing great there. They seem to love it. It also keeps the strawberries from growing on the ground and getting the rot. I did buy the little midnight snack cherry tomato. I usually have two big tomato plants in pots, and then I have a small tomato in one of my stock tanks. I also plant that in with garlic and with onions to help keep some of the insects off of them. So I did get a small midnight snack tomato plant. I ended up getting 2 broccolini plants. I didn't get kale because I grow kale and all my lettuce from seed. You have to be careful. I noticed last year I purchased tomatoes from Lowe's. I've never had a problem with root knot nematodes, and that is the first time I had a problem with it, and it was from the pot where the tomato plants that I got from Lowe's were. So this year I was pretty careful. I treated the soil. I tried to solarize the soil, and I treated it with something that hopefully will reduce the population. And I also made sure this year I'm only going to plant Better Boy tomatoes. They're indeterminate tomatoes, which means they produce all season long. The bushes keep growing. Literally, they'll take over your entire backyard. But I like that because then you can actually cut them back as much as you want, and they keep growing out. Determinate tomatoes, if you keep cutting them back often, they will not continue to produce for you. You have to be careful with that. So Since I had a problem in one pot where I had a better boy tomato or bigger boy tomato from Lowe's last year. This year I only planted better boys, which if you look on the tags, and I'll show you as we go through here, if you look on the tags, it'll give you there's codes on the tag. If there's an N on there, that means it's resistant to root knot nematodes. If you have a problem with that. I also purchased a lemon thyme, and I also purchased a sweet basil plant, and I have all the other spices and herbs that I need in my backyard already. So I'm in zone 7. I have rosemary. I have various types of thyme. I have a peppermint plant. They all survive throughout the winter. Even when they get snow on them, they sometimes will look pretty beat up, but they'll always come back. They're Mediterranean plants, and they come back for me really, really well. I did get a lemon thyme, as you can see, and I got the 2 broccolinis and some other plants. But yeah, so most of my herbs come back that I use regularly. I mean, I use other herbs like chives. I didn't get any from Lowe's. I try to grow those from seeds, so I did plant some seeds this year for that. This is a rosemary. It is absolutely beautiful, and I did get my rosemary from Lowe's. I tried growing rosemary and it did okay, but I needed it to be much bigger faster. So I ended up putting the plant in and then putting seeds around it. So they have a really big pot full of rosemary now. It's absolutely beautiful. It survives all through the winter. I didn't get any lavender. I have a couple of lavender plants. I have grown lavender in my yard for several years, and it does not like to survive my winters. I think I have one this year that actually survived, and barely. It looks terrible. So I have another one that might come back. It's got a teeny bit of green on it, but I don't know. Lavender's tricky in my zone. These Bonnie green bells. I bought 1 green bell. I bought 1 red bell pepper, and then I also plant seeds. I'm getting a late start this year because I've been super busy. But I did go ahead and get a plant to get a jump start on some things. But lettuces, I grow all my lettuces, all my kale. I grow all of that from seed. I try to stick to perennials. I try to, intersperse a little bit of annuals by seed where I can. And if there's just something that's absolutely stunning, like there's a canna lily here that I purchased. I only purchased 1 because it'll come back every year in my zone. I did purchase that because it was so pretty. I couldn't not buy it. So anyway, yeah, they have a lot of really great stuff out. Check your almanac, check your local Lowe's, and if you don't have a garden, you can put 1 pot on your back porch and grow, miniature or dwarf versions of a lot of things. Yeah, it's just, I don't know, it's pretty easy to grow stuff if you just look at the tag, check the sun requirements, check the soil requirements, read online how often you have to fertilize them. I struggle with some things in my zone year after year. I struggle with peppers. I did get a sweet banana pepper this year. Usually I try to grow those from seed, but I'm not going to try those from seed. I did get the green pepper and the red pepper, but I did put seeds around those. So I'll get a jump start with 1 plant, and then I'll have others coming up around it. But I'll tell you, I don't know what it is, but my zone, and it may just be my yard, my soil, I don't know. I use organic fertilizer and I water. I have everything on an automated system. I cannot grow peppers ever. It's so weird. Anyway, here are the lettuces. Then there's container tomatoes. I will tell you, look at this. This gives you, this grows 2 feet tall. It's determinate, which means it doesn't grow, it keep growing and then growing and take over. It just grows to 2 feet. But you could buy one of those tomato plants, put it in a pot on your back porch, water it, fertilize it a few times, and that's going to more than take you through the entire summer on and into the fall. My tomato plants grow and produce into the cold weather where I am. And you think about your savings about just buying tomatoes. If you love tomatoes, just buy 1 small container plant, put it in a pot on your backyard, plant. You can even plant flowers around it, small flowers around the bottom of it to make it pretty, and you can just harvest those from those tomatoes forever. These are the tomatoes I got, the Better Boys. I absolutely love these. You can see on the tag, it will say indeterminate. And then if you turn the tag over at the top, you see the disease resistance. You see the V, F, and the N. That's where I was looking for. I was looking for that N because I wanted to make sure they were nematode resistant. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll play a little bit of music and you can continue to walk around with me, and I'll check back in with you towards the end of the video. Hey everyone, just checking back in. I did purchase these tomato plant stakes. If you saw those, they have the green. They are actually covered galvanized steel. I have those. They still look amazing. I keep them outside by my garden. I'll do a garden tour and show you. But I really like those. They held up really well. I don't have a ton of storage in my garage because I have 2 cars in there, so I don't want a ton of stuff. Those tomatoes that were $3.98 was an amazing deal. They are really, really small, but if you think about it, for $3.98, that plant will grow fast. You can fertilize it with some organic fertilizer. And for $3.98, how many tomatoes can you get for that? And this would provide you tomatoes throughout the entire growing season. I did get some Texas sweet onions and planted those. I plant Texas sweet onions amongst all of my plants, whether it's tomatoes, garlic, my lettuce, everywhere. I plant them around my blueberry plant, and I do that. I plant garlic and onions around all of my plants. Those snapdragons are really pretty too. Sorry. But yeah, I plant that because it helps keep the bugs away. I don't have a ton of problems with bugs. So I do know that if you have a plant that has an interesting smell, they often will help keep a lot of pests away. If I do end up with a problem, if it's, a fungus gnat or something like that, I use the mosquito bits. I just sprinkle them around my garden on the soil. But I have raised bed garden, which is actually just stock tanks painted black. Again, I'll do a tour and show you those. I sprinkle mosquito bits on top of the soil, so when it does get watered, it does go into the soil. And that completely helps with that. I don't have a big problem with fungus gnats. If I have them inside, I do the same thing. You can also soak the mosquito bits in like a nylon stocking or a little mesh bag in the water, and then you can pour and water your plants with that. I also just put the mosquito bits in my water and water my plants, and the mosquito bits themselves just go into the soil. I have 0 problems with fungus gnats because of that, but I keep it up. So I water with that about once a month or more often if I did see a flying bug. But yeah, it does a pretty good job. What else can I give you tips on? I grow things, like I said, I like perennials that come back every year. I just don't like, I have a couple areas in my yard where I do plant annuals or put seeds out, but I put my seeds out pretty early. Like I'll put my seeds out a few weeks ago, and even though I know we're going to have a few more cold snaps, my seeds will actually germinate and come up because that little cold period, even though the seeds don't need that cold period, it doesn't kill the seeds off. And literally they come up all of a sudden, especially when it gets warm after that little period last, frost. They come up and I end up with just a big flush of beautiful annual flowers, and I spent, $4 for them. So you can definitely buy them if you want to, or you can use the seed packets. I personally use Baker Creek seeds. I love their seeds. I've had great germination rate, and I also use them year after year and still have a great germination rate. After about 3 or 4 years, I do start seeing that germination drop off. Make sure when you get them delivered, if you're not going to be at home, be aware that you don't want them sitting in your mailbox and getting really, really hot if it's summertime. Because if you have something you're going to plant in the fall, like a viola or pansies, and you're getting seeds in the mail, I have been out before and came back and my seeds were delivered in my mailbox and they got super hot in there, and that could affect your germination rate. Those seeds did not germinate as well as the seeds normally would. So you can't always control when things get delivered, but just keep that in mind. The hydrangeas were absolutely beautiful as always. These are the macrophylla. These are what I have in my yard. I do have some in the back that are dwarf, but I have huge hydrangeas on one entire side of my house, and I change the color of those as often as I can. I use different fertilizers to change the color of my hydrangeas. I use coffee grounds. I try to put different things out there. My hydrangeas are super pretty and super beautiful. I just love them. I love that the neighbors will come over and ask to take cuttings for my hydrangeas. Sometimes they're pink, sometimes they're a combination of purple and pink, sometimes they're bright blue. You can definitely change the color of them based on what you feed them. These are the Kalanchoe. I used to call these calanchos, and I'm pretty sure they're Kalanchoe, but when I was really young, I had one of these when I was super young, and I love them. I used to have a big shelf in my room when I was growing up, and I would go out and dig up plants in the woods and bring them inside and put them in a plant and put them on this big shelf in my room. I've loved plants since I was little. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this trip to Lowe's. If you have any questions, let me know. And I'll look forward to seeing you in my next video. Thank you and have a wonderful day.